future, since he's a person and now taking super PAC money, since you're now taking super PAC money, how can we trust that you're not fighting for the people profiting off climate change?
Look at my record, child. Look at my record.
Is you fighting to go into the Iraq war and you
No, that's not right.
Look at that. What is that, you ask? That is my dude crushing it. That is Joe Biden nailing it. Hello, everybody. Good morning. Happy Wednesday. And hello, Black Cat. Good to see you, Black Cat. I always get a kick out of Black Cat. That was Joe Biden. This is Chaos Agent 11. Good to see everybody. As you know, I also worked for Biden campaign. Remember, I got job because I showed up with ice cream cone and lock of ladies' hair. It actually wasn't ladies' hair, it was my hair, but I told them it belonged to lady. Joe Biden hired me. Anyway, there you see Joe Biden crushing it with somebody. He is nailing it. Now, you might be wondering, who is coaching Joe Biden to do so well with potential voters, to do so well with the public? I'll tell you who. Me. He followed my rules exactly, and he crushed it. First of all, I told him, listen, Joe, when somebody asks you a question, don't really pay attention. Don't really listen to them. Kind of just act like you're doing other things. In fact, in some cases, you might be doing other things. Like maybe somebody hands you a camera and they want a selfie. When that happens, don't wait until someone else's question is done. Don't wait until like maybe it's just you and that person. You just kind of take a quick selfie. No. You play with their phone and don't listen to a person asking question. Then you take big selfie with everyone involved. So it's intrusive and some people might not have wanted to be in selfie, especially if it's a lady asking you a question. Nobody loves unsolicited selfies more than women. Makes them feel better. Are you taking notes, Joe? And at this point, Joe Biden said, yes, I'm taking notes. And I looked over and he literally had a stone and chisel and he was taking notes on what I was telling him. And then I said, okay, next, Joe, after you take intrusive selfie, the other thing you do, if you get asked a question or if you are criticized, just pout incessantly, Joe. Don't answer. Oh, and by the way, if millennial asks you a question, make sure you refer to them as child. Millennials are a little bit sensitive about their age. They're like, hey, I'm not 20 anymore and I have a bunch of student loan debt. So when you call them child, it reminds them that they're still young. They like it. Anybody who asks you a question that's younger than you, in fact, make sure you call them child. It makes them feel good. In fact, I think new campaign slogan should just be, hey, child, vote for me. Right? Biden 2020. Vote for me, child. So that was the other piece of advice I gave him. And then I said, look, Joe, when someone criticizes you, just pout incessantly. These climate people, Joe, they're not going to vote for you no matter what. They have access to information, like your voting history, and the people who fund your campaign. You know, Russian propaganda. So they're not going to vote for you anyway. So just pout insistently, because all press is good press, and we need more footage of you behaving like a moron. Joe Biden followed all of my advice to a T, and that's why he is going to win in 2020. By the way, I asked Black Cat if she wanted to be VP nominee last night. I said, hey, Black Cat, do you want to be Joe Biden's nominee? She immediately went into her litter box and took a dump. So I'm thinking she does not want job. Black Cat will not be VP for Joe Biden, but stay tuned. We'll see who that VP might be. All right. Getting back to Get Your Booze On with John or whatever this show's called as soon as that guy fixes his hair. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Get Your News On with Ron. Lucy, how's it going? Happy day before Halloween. Which, by the way, a PSA: if you see anybody being a jerk to a black cat, please do say something. I know that's something we shouldn't have to say in 2019, but the truth is there is still that stigma about black cats, like, oh, they're witches or they're bad luck or whatever. And sometimes when it's Halloween time and booze is involved, people still might not be okay towards black cats, which is disgusting that that's the reality we live in. Basically, if you ever see anyone being horrible to an animal in any sense, you should say something. But in particular, right now, black cats are a little more vulnerable because of this time of year. So, if you see anything like that, please do say something. Please do call the cops or, something. I don't know. But hopefully you don't. Hopefully I don't. Hopefully nobody does. But, as somebody who is a companion with a black cat, this is something that we're aware of and something that you do see in the news pretty much every year around this time. And it's very sad we haven't evolved further. Keep in mind, the superstition towards black cats can be traced back to one of the popes. I believe it was Pope Innocent. At one point decided they were all witches, so they started killing black cats. The Catholic Church decided to kill black cats in mass, like en masse, not like in mass, like not like in church they did it. Maybe they did, I don't know. But they started killing a bunch of black cats, and then because they did that, they had a rat infestation and they got the plague. So religious superstition kind of led to the plague because the cats, that's why cats were domesticated in the first place. People knew they kept the rats at bay. That's why we became companions with cats. Just like we became companions with dogs because they used to help with hunting back in the day. So anyway, side note, PSA. Today's theme to start out the show is Joe Biden, and the mainstream is actually losing confidence in Joe Biden. Now, here's what made me think of this. I got an email from my cousin, who's a great guy, but he's a little more mainstream Dem than myself, and by a little more, I mean a lot more. But he's even worked in politics before, and he's a good guy. He wants to do the right thing. Just strategically, we have our differences of opinion, but he sent this to me, and he expressed a lot of concern about Joe Biden. And I think that is slowly creeping into mainstream America. People who have been paying a lot of attention, people who have been really following things, people who are kind of outside the system and progressives and so forth. We sniffed Joe Biden out a long, long time ago. We sniffed Joe Biden out even before he was sniffing hair. But I think a lot of kind of like general mainstream America, if you will, they're not convinced that he is, first of all, a scam. Second of all, he would get crushed. He would lose. He would lose worse than Hillary did, and we know this. But now I think the greater masses are waking up to this too. I've used the word mass in several different contexts today. Did you notice that? Anyway, that's weird. Hello, Lucy. All right, so let's go to this article. This is from the Intelligencer and New York Mag. The zombie campaign. Joe Biden is the least formidable frontrunner ever. Will it matter? Inevitably, he arrives late by SUV or van. The former vice president is thin, and yes, he's old. He dresses neatly and always in blue. Staff envelope him. There's the body man, the advance man, the videographer, the photographer, the digital director, blah, 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 blah. Okay. The looming presence of the last guy, Jim, is especially important for optics. Jim is tall and official looking. He greets the world chest first, his hands resting in a dignified clasp, his expression even, his mouth unmoving. Most people assume that he's a Secret Service agent, which he was. But ex-VPs don't get security for life the way ex-presidents do. Most people don't know that, not even the political savvy types, blah, 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 blah. And it is a production. This is true even when the event is small, which it often is, because the stakes never are. Joe Biden speaking off the cuff is something the entire campaign seems to focus on preventing at all costs. The first part, the reading of his speech, he almost always gets right. Even when he makes changes, rearranges the order of the words, skipping over a few, adding others, how could he not get that right? He's been delivering the same version of it for more than 40 years and living it for longer. He could deliver it in his sleep if he ever sleeps. It's like my father always said, Joey, a job is about more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity. It's about being able to look your child in the eye and say it's going to be okay. There is an undercurrent. This is the important part here. There is an undercurrent of shame that pulses throughout. This idea that the unequalness of our society is embarrassing for those who have access to less, rather than embarrassing for those who have more than anyone could need. And then they go on to when he greets people, he's swarmed by, the few people who still have confidence in him. But what does this article tell us? Now keep in mind, this is a very mainstream article. And by mainstream, I don't mean the mainstream media, because I don't call it that. It's the corporate media. But it's mainstream as in it's written for the general person who may not be paying a ton of attention to the election as of now. That's who it's written for. It focuses on aesthetics at first. It focuses on his appearance and the appearance of his team. But then when it gets into the nitty-gritty, it's kind of sugarcoating, yet still delivering the theme we already know. This guy has been saying the same thing for 40 years, and he's been living it. Now, when they say he's been saying the same thing for 40 years, they don't mean he's had the same policy ideas and messages around those policies for 40 years, and he's been living it. That applies to a Bernie Sanders. What they mean, and they even get into this in the article, they mean he's been doing the same anecdotes for 40 years. He hasn't reinvented his anecdotes with the times. You could hear Joe Biden give a speech in the 80s, and it would pretty much be the same thing. And he's been living it for 40 years, standing for nothing and getting things wrong. That's what that's thinly veiled code for. He's been doing the same thing. He's a by-the-book, standard, blank suit politician. And when they say there's an amount of shame in the air, as if he's trying to cast shame on poor people, no. What they're really saying is that this is a soulless campaign. And I don't think they're intentionally trying to say this stuff. I think it's coming through anyway. That a general person who probably wants to at least give Biden the benefit of the doubt. I'd imagine the author of this piece wants to at least be able to give Biden the benefit of the doubt, if not straight up support him, and they can't do it. They can't. I mean, they know that, yeah, he has a few fans who were excited to meet him. That's the only thing they can really say. There's shame in the air. He delivers the same tired anecdotes he's been doing for 40 years. It's underwhelming. It's sparsely attended. His campaign doesn't want him to speak. Did you see that? Oh, they want to minimize off-the-cuff speeches by Joe Biden. That was in the article. No. Again, you're sugarcoating a little bit. They want him to speak as little as possible. Why? Because he does the shit that Chaos Agent 11 just pointed out a little bit earlier. Because he doesn't know how to handle criticism. He doesn't know how to handle voters. He doesn't know how to talk to people unless he's just speaking in the anecdotes that he's been doing for 40 years. You actually confront this guy on his corruption. He doesn't know what to do. He's a deer in headlights because he knows he can't defend himself. And he's out of touch about it. Maybe at one point in time, Joe Biden was better at hiding his corruption. Maybe. When he was Obama's VP, he was just kind of nice old Uncle Joe or whatever, because people weren't really paying attention to him. He was just in the background being weird. But he can't do it anymore. He can't hide it. So what the article says, oh, they don't want him doing off-the-cuff speeches. No. You don't need the phrase off-the-cuff in there. They don't want him speaking. Because Joe Biden's campaign knows that whenever he speaks, people like him less. Whenever he speaks, his poll numbers go down. You know, the last time a presidential nominee had that problem, or a presidential candidate had that problem, it was Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton had the same problem. Every time she spoke, her poll numbers would go down. That's why she didn't go to a lot of places. She did not have the ability to raise her poll numbers. People liked her less every time she spoke. And if you ever hear her speak, you know why. If you ever see her on television or on a podcast embarrassing herself, you know why she has that issue. Well, Joe Biden has that same issue, potentially even worse. And his campaign knows it. And you think somebody like that would have any chance in hell against Donald Trump? Donald Trump, who lives and breathes sound bites. And if Donald Trump gets the sound bites he wants, which he will with a Joe Biden is going to get crushed. That's one reason Joe Biden will get crushed, is because he cannot handle Trump. The other reason he will get crushed is because of his past. He has been on the wrong side of most issues his entire career. I mean, go down the list. The crime bill, Patriot Act, Iraq War, healthcare. Joe Biden was for a wall, by the way. You can find that footage out there. Joe Biden was for a wall around Mexico. He was for it. So another reason Joe Biden will get crushed, to beat Trump, you need unlikely voters, people who aren't going to get up and vote, and you need undecided voters to go to your side. Joe Biden will get neither of those two things. He would get neither of those. He would not get one of those two things. He wouldn't even get all the Democrats. So he might get a couple Republicans because he basically is a Republican. But again, that's the strategy they tried with Hillary. We're going to try to get the Republicans who don't want such a mean-talking Trump. How'd that work out? How'd that work? So here you have a very soft, thinly veiled piece that still delivers the message: Joe Biden is unelectable. He does not have a shot in hell. And he's just at best a blank suit. That is the theme of this article. That we could have summarized that article in one sentence, and mainstream America, quote unquote, the masses, there you go again. I don't know why, something in the air. They're noticing. So hopefully the masses continue to notice this. Because if Joe Biden's the nominee, we are guaranteed 4 more years of Trump. And here's an article. I mean, it's very sugar-coated. They put it very gently, because that's what the corporate media does. Very gently, this article. But the themes are still there. Joe Biden's uninspiring. Joe Biden barely gets anyone out to see him except for a few diehards. Joe Biden has been doing the same gimmicks for 40 years. He hasn't been standing for the same policies for 40 years. That's a good thing. If he's been consistent for 40 years the way Bernie Sanders has been consistent for 40 years, that's a good thing. That's not what they mean when they say he's been doing the same. They mean he has the same gimmicks. That's why he talks about record players. Which, I love vinyl, don't get me wrong, but you get the idea. So hopefully this continues, and hopefully even the gloves are off a little bit, but it looks like the mainstream is waking up that Biden, he ain't the guy. He ain't the guy. All right, let's move on. So I want to talk about this. We talk about a lot about net neutrality on the show and about municipal broadband. And a while ago, we talked about how with all these mergers that are happening, what these big media companies are trying to do is they're trying to get into the streaming world. Now, what I mean by that, I don't just mean they're going to stream their already available content. Pretty much all cable channels are already streaming just to, get into that side of technology. What I mean is they're going to get more distinguished. They're going to have their own streaming platforms, their own streaming services, different subscriptions, and so forth. Because in a post-net neutrality world, net neutrality, for anyone not super familiar with it, net neutrality is the policy that assures the free and open treatment of the internet, meaning no internet traffic can be prioritized over others. This includes stuff that is created and put on the internet by people. A video that I upload or that any other independent creator uploads shouldn't be treated with any other any priority over something that CNN puts out or Fox News puts out. In a post-net neutrality world, internet service providers don't have to follow those rules anymore. So big corporate entities that can afford to pay for faster priority, their content will load faster, it will load better than somebody who can't afford to pay that fee. This would gut the internet as we know it and turn it into cable television 2.0 as far as the content that is viable on it. So that's why they're going to get into more specific streaming services. This is something we've been predicting on this show for a while now. And guess what? Here's what HBO Max looks like. Now, again, this is different than just HBO streaming what's already available. HBO Go has been around for a while. This is something different. All right, here's what HBO Max looks like. A first look at AT&T's big streaming bet. HBO Max is AT&T's. So there you have it. There you have it. It's starting. AT&T and HBO. They're starting HBO Max. Now, this is different than HBO Go. This is a $15 a month streaming service. It's going to have its own content. It's going to have its own thing. It's almost like it's its own entity, kind of like on cable. Exactly. Disney's trying to do the same thing. They're all trying to do the same thing because they envision an internet where these are your only available options. And you kind of just have to have a subscription to each. And that's what the internet looks like for you. Because independent media has been stamped out. Podcasts have been stamped out. Online video has been stamped out. Shows like this, gone. Because it won't load. We won't be able to pay the fees. And yes, some big entities are pro net neutrality because it favors their business model, like a YouTube, like a Google, like a Facebook. But you don't think it's just a matter of time until the powers that be find a way to make these entities whole too? What's stopping them from saying, oh, well, some people are going to pay you the fees to have their content load faster on your platforms? So that's really what this is. This is more than just, oh, well, streaming's the next technology. No. We already have that. Cable channels already just stream their stuff. And if you're, a cable, if you're a cable customer, you can just stream it online. You have that option. Again, using HBO as an example, HBO Go has been around for a long time. HBO Max is something different. And that's what this is getting into. They want you to use their streaming services. They want you to use their subscriptions because in a post-net neutrality world, the internet can look like cable television 2.0. This is evidence that it's starting. And if we don't get net neutrality back, it's going to continue and it's going to happen slowly. This is unreal, and this is going to happen in May 2020, okay? In May 2020, we're not going to be looking at a post-net neutrality internet quite yet, okay? It's a slow boil, but this is a start. This is a start. So we got to hold the front lines on policy for net neutrality. I know here in California, we have a net neutrality bill. The court recently ruled that states can have their own net neutrality laws. So hopefully the state net neutrality law in California continues to move forward. You got to pressure your officials to do so. And how do we end the net neutrality battle once and for all? We push for municipal broadband in our cities and communities. I had a meeting yesterday about getting municipal broadband. That is city-owned internet in my community of Pasadena. And I'm starting to kind of do some groundwork to bring that closer to becoming a reality. And again, if you want to do that in your community, I'll send you the transcript that I brought up at a city hall. And we have the playlist that talks about the resources available to start doing that. But this is evidence. This is evidence. This is not just, expanding into the streaming world. No, this is something distinct and different. This is evidence that the powers that be, the cable companies, the big cable, they are preparing for a post-net neutrality internet. So we need to keep fighting to hold the front lines. And we need to prepare to get net neutrality back. Because once we lose the medium, it's gone forever. We don't get it back. Look at radio, look at television. Once you lose the medium, it's gone away. And I don't think any of us want to live in a society where we tell our children and our grandchildren, if we're not all underwater, by the way, but we tell our children and our grandchildren what the internet used to be like. All right. So that's a net neutrality story for today, And, all right, so this was sent to me by Lois, which, Lois, thank you for sending this to me. I saw pictures of this all over the internet, and I wasn't sure what was going on with it exactly. So we're going to find out now. This happened in my hometown of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So check this out. Here, let me show you the picture to start out. Look at this. Here, hold up. Look at that. Look at that. That's a bus, like in a sinkhole. That's a city bus in a sinkhole, and there's a car that looks like it's dipping in there too. Isn't that crazy? All right, so what the hell happened? Let's check this out. All right. Here, we can pause this. We don't need the video. A massive sinkhole opened up in downtown Pittsburgh. How did it just opened up? A massive sinkhole opened up in downtown Pittsburgh during the Monday morning rush hour, swallowing the back half of a Port Authority bus and nearly a car with it. Emergency crews have been on the scene all day. This was a couple days ago. Director of Pittsburgh Public Safety Works, Hisrich, says the impact will last even longer than just Monday night. He says 10th Street will be closed for at least 1 to 2 weeks. So they're still figuring out this sinkhole. The entire back of the bus is in the hole with the front half sticking up in the air. The G31 Bridgeville Flyer bus was stopped at a red light when the hole opened underneath it. According to Port Authority officials, the back half of their buses are by far the heaviest part because that's where the engine's located. The Port Authority updated their numbers later in the morning, saying only 2 people, the driver and a passenger, were on the bus when the sinkhole opened underneath. Okay, that's good. Both were able to get off. That's also good. Originally, officials believed 10 people were on board. All right, so it looks like there were only 2. The bus driver was not hurt. That's good. But Port Authority officials say the passenger was taken to Allegheny General Hospital to be treated for some minor neck pain. Fortunately, it was nothing serious, though. All right, so here's what the Port Authority Pittsburgh tweeted. We are grateful for Pittsburgh public safety and that no one was seriously injured. We're being told a crane needs to be brought in to remove the bus, and it will be several hours before it can be extracted. Detours in the area will likely remain in place for the remainder of the day. Look at that. Wow. So a sinkhole just opened up at, imagine that, you're sitting on a bus and all of a sudden, boom, we're in a sinkhole. I mean, I can't even begin to imagine something like this happening. But I can say this. I will say this. I am from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I still go back there regularly to see my family, which, by the way, plug, April 10th, I'm doing a show at Mr. Smalls in Pittsburgh. Grab your tickets now, fellow Pittsburgh folks. Tickets are available now, ronplacone.com. April 10th, I'll be at Mr. Smalls. But this is like, I mean, I will say this. Pittsburgh is notorious. In the surrounding area around Pittsburgh, they are notorious for having road work and road construction everywhere all the time, and then the roads never get any better. The roads are not the greatest there. There are potholes galore in that city, and I've driven pretty much all over the country. So, you know, that's everywhere. Some places are worse than others. Pittsburgh is one of the not so great cities in my experience. And I've driven a lot of places. I mean, I've been to over 40 states at this point. I've driven pretty much through this entire country, just about, at least in the lower 48. And, you know, Pittsburgh's not one of the better ones. There are ones just as bad. There are ones worse, but Pittsburgh's not one of the better ones in my experience. Yet they're always doing something and nothing ever gets better. I don't even know how something like this can happen or be prevented, where just a sinkhole, boom. But I will say I've experienced that, where they're doing road work. I mean, it's a running joke in that city. You know, it's there's construction season in winter. That's like the joke locals will say. So I don't know. That's crazy, Pittsburgh. I wish everyone the best. I'm glad no one was hurt. At the end of the day, that's what's most important. Nobody got hurt. So Lois, thank you for bringing that to my attention. A bunch of my friends still in Pittsburgh were posting those photos. Some were posting it on their Instagram and what have you. And I was like, what the hell is that all about? And now I know. The sinkhole just opened up at a red light. All right. Just another Monday, huh? Looks like somebody's got a case of the Mondays. We're in a sinkhole. All right. Truth to Tweet shares this next thing. Now, by the way, Truth to Tweet sends stuff to this show a lot. False to Tweet never does. I don't know what False to Tweet's deal is. False to Tweet only shares MSNBC stuff. I don't know what their deal is. But Truth to Tweet shares this. Check this out. This is pretty cool. This is from a climate activist, Mike Houdina. And Mike Houdima, excuse me. Floating wind turbines, which would make an amazing band name, open up new possibilities for generating clean energy. We have the solutions. Let's stop the political stalling and implement them. Act on climate, energy, tech, Green New Deal. So check these out. Here, let's show you these things in action. There's no sound on this, but check this out. Here it goes. Look at that. So that's a wind turbine, but floating, basically. Floating wind turbines. And here's the thing. If this wind turbine falls, it falls in the water. And there's not going to be any oil in the water. There's not going to be, no water wells are going to be contaminated if this thing ever falls. No one will likely even get injured because it's just in the water. Hopefully there's nobody nearby. And then you know what they'll do? They'll repair it. And there will be no oil spills involved. Same with all other windmills. Like, I love people when they bring up the argument against wind, they're like, well, some of them don't work. Okay, so you know what? You send people out and they fix it. They fix it. That's what they do. They fix it. Oh, and you know what happens when that happens? Jobs. There's jobs involved in building these floating wind turbines. Again, great band name, Floating Wind Turbines. It's Halloween season. Were you thinking of starting that band? You should start it and call yourself Floating Wind Turbines. Truth to Tweet, thank you for sharing this. This is the type of infrastructure we need to be investing in. When you hear about gasoline-powered buses going into sinkholes, we need to repair our roads. Don't get me wrong. We need to still fix the infrastructure of our roads. But it's time to start looking into new energy. It's time to start looking into transportation solutions. Green New Deal brings green jobs. That's why we can have a jobs guarantee in this country. And we need a federal jobs guarantee. You can build floating wind turbines. Thank you for sharing that Truth to Tweet. Alrighty. So this one's interesting. Oh, and then we're going to go to something that you guys did yesterday, and that's how we're going to end the show today. But check this out. So, a lot of times we talk about, what are you? As far as, as far as politics go. Are you a socialist? Are you a capitalist to your bones? Are you an anarchist? Are you one of the many varieties of anarchy that are out there? I mean, anarchy, when you really break down anarchy is a lot like ice cream. There's so many different flavors. You're bound to find something you like. But what are you? Are you a communist? What are you? And I think my pal David Rovix put it pretty good. David Rovix identifies as an anarchist. He's a singer-songwriter, did this show before. A lot of these terms get reinvented and reused, and they're applied in the contemporary sense. And it sort of dilutes their meaning a little bit, but we kind of need these terms to have something to go by. I think that's very true. These terms are they're reapplied, they're reassociated, so take it all with a bit of a grain of salt. But we need something to start with. Like the DSA, the Democrat Socialist of America, basically they're just social democrats to my understanding. But in the contemporary sense, they're democratic socialists, which is mostly just a branding thing. And people ask me, Ron, if you had to pick one, because I don't really just pick one. I think I have a lot of different perspectives that can be sort of in a lot of different schools of thought, if you will. But I've said this before. If I had to pick one, I think the closest thing I would identify as is a market socialist. I think market socialist would be the closest thing to my views, which is basically what a lot of the countries like Denmark, Sweden, Norway, that's basically what they are. They are market socialist countries where workers have a seat at the table. They run the means of production for the most part. There are worker co-ops, especially in places like Catalonia. Maybe I would go a bit further even as far as worker co-ops go, because I'm 110% for them. But workers own the means of production, but the markets still kind of form themselves. If you want to start a pizza shop, you can. You just have to treat your workers fairly, and the workers have a seat at the table, basically. And if your pizza sucks and nobody buys it, well, I guess it's not going to work out for you. You don't get to have a planned situation where your pizza place gets to stay up no matter what. So yeah, that's basically, I would say, if I had to pick one glass, that is what I think is for the most part the clearest one. Now, somebody told me, in fact, David told me, that market socialism is also just a form of anarchy. I don't know which brand it is. You'd have to let me know. I don't know. Again, that's why you got to kind of take these terms with a grain of salt. But here's something interesting getting on the theme of all this. Poll sponsored by Anti-Communist discovers 70% of U.S. millennials ready to ditch capitalism for socialism. Critics blame poll results on historic amnesia, while progressive observers say millennials associate socialism with strong welfare systems. Now, you want to talk about amnesia. Amnesia would be not recognizing what neoliberalism has done to this country and capitalism has done to this country. Pretty much, well, it's been heavily amplified from 1980 until present. Amnesia would be not recognizing that every time capitalism is tried, the same problems happen. Literally every single time. Eventually, you get a rich and poor gap that is unforeseen, that's remnant of ancient Egypt, which is what we're at now in the United States, and you need strong socialist-style policies to bail it out. Every time capitalism has been tried, that's what happens. Every single time. So that's amnesia. Another form of misinformation that we have, especially in the contemporary United States, is we associate positive virtues, at least what I would refer to as positive virtues, we pin that to capitalism when the two are not really directly related. Capitalism is basically the pursuit of capital above all else, and eventually it leads to those with the most capital making all the rules. That's what capitalism is. The pursuit of capitalism is how everything revolves, and there's no protections for anybody else. And that leads to basic oligarchies and plutocracies, which is what we have in the United States. But we associate the idea of if you work hard, you'll get ahead with capitalism. That's not necessarily true. Hard work is hard work. Having the desire to create is not associated with capitalism. I didn't want to be a comedian because I was born in the United States where it's a capitalist country. I wanted to be a comedian because it's an art form that's been around for years and 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 years. And it's part of the human condition to want to create to some extent. And I was drawn to it, and I was drawn to a lot of the literature, and I was really into music, and it was a natural leap. Creative expression is not unique to capitalism, nor can you only be in a capitalist, a quote, capitalist country to be a creative professional. Now, are there some authoritarian states where being a creative professional is not really viable or possible? Yes. That is a real thing too. But to just link that to capitalism is just bogus. Like it just makes zero sense. Excuse me, I need a little water. All right, so here's the poll. A survey released Monday revealed that 70% of U.S. millennials, those between the ages of 23 and 38 in 2019, would support a socialist candidate for president, a result which a number of progressives viewed as an outgrowth of the damage wrought in recent decades by neoliberal capitalism and the ruling corporate order. Among those slightly younger voters between the ages of 16 and 22, the sentiment was almost as high, with nearly two-thirds of Generation Z saying the same. The poll was taken by YouGov and paid for by the Victims of Communism Memorial Foundation, which surveyed 2,100 people about their views of capitalism and the U.S. economic system, socialism, and inequality in the United States. Now, again, there's a difference between what we refer to as democratic socialism and authoritarian socialism or authoritarian communism. Those are all different things. Those are all different things. And a lot of these things taken to their extreme get very ugly. But what we do in the United States is when we talk about socialism or communism, we only look at the authoritarian style, which of course is not a good thing. We don't look at the idea of a democratic version of it, like what they do in Norway and Denmark and Sweden and places like that, which, by the way, all those other countries, they also have creative professionals there, by the way. There's plenty of comedians in England and Denmark and Sweden, and there's musicians there, and you can be creative there and blah, blah, blah. So we only focus on those negativities. We only focus on that style of it. But when it comes to capitalism, we attribute all these positive virtues to capitalism, that if it wasn't for capitalism, which again, it's just the pursuit of capital above all else, we wouldn't have all these things. We wouldn't be able to just work hard and pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And then that's another just completely bogus, mawkish misnomer. We associate all those great things to capitalism. We never talk about the ugly side of it, which is basically what it's set up to do. Capitalism is set up to do this. It's set up to have a huge rich and poor gap, and only an elite few have power. That's what capitalism is set up to do. That's what it does every single time it is tried. But we take all these virtues, and they're not related. The idea of wanting to contribute to society has nothing to do with capitalism. Nothing at all. If anything, it's socialism, if anything else. Because the idea of contributing to the greater good brings about the sense of community, which is more commonly associated with socialism or even communism than capitalism. I mean, really, it's not necessarily directly related to any type of economic system. It really isn't. But if you're going to assign it to one, capitalism shouldn't even be on the list. So we attribute all these positive virtues to capitalism, which is just absolute nonsense. It's like saying, "Man, I'm going on a good diet. I really have the stage lighting to thank." You know what I mean? Like just two completely unrelated things. I'm eating well, thanks communism. I have the desire to do a favor for my sister. Thanks, anarchy. Like, what? What are you talking about? If we did this for like other, economic schools of thought, if people would just look at us like we're crazy, like I made a donation to. You get the idea. All right. So, but it looks like this generation, millennials, Gen Z, they're seeing through it. They're seeing through this ridiculous worship of capitalism and drawing positive virtues into capitalism when it has nothing to do with capitalism. They're seeing through that, and they're seeing through the demonization of socialism too. They're seeing through that as well, and that's a good thing. All right, cool. Oh, here's where I want to go. So yesterday we were not able to have a show. I did do a show with the political vigilante, Graham Elwood. That was a fun time. We were at the All Things Comedy Studio. Shout out to everybody who made it out for that, which, by the way, we talked about Max Blumenthal a lot on that stream, but I'll just mention it here too, because I didn't do a show yesterday, so I didn't get to talk about what happened to Max Blumenthal. He was put in jail for no reason. I'm sure you've heard about this by now, but Max Blumenthal, they showed up at his house, threatened to kick his door in. He was put in jail on a bogus, quote unquote, assault charge over at the embassy. Some of you guys remember Venezuelan embassy. A bunch of peace activists sat there because a bunch of regime change folks wanted to take it over. And so what they did to combat the peace activists, and this happened right here in DC, is they surrounded it, denying them food and water. People like Max Blumenthal were trying to get food and water in there. And some pro-Guaido person said that allegedly Max did a simple assault, apparently. Now, this warrant for Max's arrest had been around for 5 months, and he wasn't contacted. It wasn't brought to his awareness, and instead the SWAT team surrounded him. This was completely inappropriate behavior, completely non-protocol behavior. It made zero sense. This looks just like a political hit job against a journalist. And you can read more about it at the Gray Zone and from Ben Norton. Lee Camps talked about it as well. Graham and I talked about it. And you can go to Max's Twitter. It looks like Max is out of jail now. So that's just a quick update on that. Go to those sources for a more in-depth dive. But, wishing Max all the best. I I appreciate his work very much. Management of Savagery is an amazing book. Check it out. I've read it. It's a really great book. All right. Anyway, to getting on to something a little bit lighter. So when I didn't do the show, I mentioned that I'm taking any and all horror punk suggestions. So that's going to be the song of the day today. It's Halloween time. So we're going to do a horror punk playlist. Now, I haven't heard of a lot of this stuff, so I have no idea what it's like. But we'll go through what everybody's suggestions, because a lot of you guys had some good suggestions. I Was a Teenage Werewolf by the Cramps. Edwin suggests that. Edwin, great suggestion. I know the Cramps. I like the Cramps. And I like the Vermont guy. Hey, Ron, I don't know much music like you do, so this will seem like a horrible question. Would you consider Billy Bragg punk? I said, yep, cool guy, too. I got to interview him once. All right. Let's see here. Pain the Band is recommended by Michael Nuss. I've never heard of Pain the Band, but I will check it out. So Pain, Pain, exclamation point. Check them out. 45 Grave riboflavin, flavored non-carbonated. Wow. Okay. Wow. So this is called 45 Grave. This is from the early 80s. That's badass. This is from Damn It Tease. And this is a cover of Don Hinson in the Rigor Morticians. So Damn It Tease knows a lot about this style of music, way more than I do. So shout out to them. But check out this video. This is by 45 Grave, riboflavin flavored non-carbonated polyunsaturated blood. Wow. All right. This is Alien Sex Fiend. Now I'm feeling zombified. Damn It Tease also recommends this. All right. What else do we have? Here we have another one from Damn It Tease, who is apparently very fluent in the horror punk / horror genre. The Magnetic Fields, Zombie Boy. So check out those tunes. We'll go through them real quick again. I Was a Teenage Werewolf by the Cramps. Pain the Band, check them out. 45 Grave, riboflavin flavored non-carbonated polyunsaturated blood. Say that 5 times fast. Alien Sex Fiend, Now I'm Feeling Zombified. And The Magnetic Fields, Zombie Boy. Check out some horror punk. 'Tis the season for horror punk. And if you want to check out that, if you're not going to remember all that, I get it. So check out that strain on my, or that thread. I called it a strain. Zombies on the brain. What can you do? That thread on Twitter, I tweeted it yesterday where I just say there will be no live Get Your News On with Ron today. That was yesterday. In the meantime, I'm taking any and all horror punk suggestions. Thank you guys. So those are the songs of the day. Horror punk themed, because it is Halloween coming up. All right. Let me see what you guys are saying. And that is how we'll end the stream. By the way, shout out to our sponsor, ZT.com, ZHITEA.com. Their tea kind of rules. And I hope everyone is going to have a very fun and happy Halloween. I love Halloween. It's my favorite. It's my favorite. It's got to do with the harvest. I think that's pretty groovy. Balthazar. What's up, Balthazar? Thank you very much for the super chat contribution. That's cat cyst. And that was from earlier. Oh, that was probably when I was when Chaos Agent said they were going to have they asked Lucy if she wanted to be Joe Biden's VP. She said no. Lucy's not into it. JCG Irvin, thank you very much for the super chat contribution. We have to wonder who the Biden supporters end up supporting. Bernie's best opportunity to take the lead. I agree. And I'll be totally honest. I have a hard time understanding why anybody would support Joe Biden. I mean, like what is it about him that appeals to, and I think at this point, honestly, I think it's just kind of name recognition. It's just something people know. And I think it's sort of a knee-jerk thing like, well, Trump's terrible. This is a known brand, Joe Biden, so that's our guy. I honestly don't think it's any more complex than that. So, yeah, the important thing is that you try to get it out to the general voter that this guy won't win. This guy won't win. Because he won't. And, I think that's like the biggest thing when people are like, oh, how do I get people to go more towards Bernie? How do I just start at the most simple notion where it's like, okay, you don't like Trump. I don't like Trump either. I want to see Trump go away too. So support the guy who can beat him. Bernie can. You're thinking, maybe you're in that zone. And again, I'm talking to the hypothetical voter here. All right, you're in that zone, blue no matter who. I don't feel like arguing that with you right now. I disagree with it, but I'm not going to argue it right now. So let's just take that notion and start there to work with it. Biden won't beat Trump. Bernie can. You know why? Because you're decided already, anonymous voter person who's blue no matter who. You're decided already. But not everybody's in your boat. There's a lot of people who might not go out and vote because they don't really feel like there's a choice on the ballot. There's a lot of people who are undecided. To win, you need to get some of those voters. Joe Biden can't do it. Bernie can. There you go. All right. So, yeah, good call, JCG Irvine. Jedi Mullet, Alice Cooper, Ghouls Gone Wild. Nice suggestion. A classic. And Jedi Mullet, thank you very much for the other Super Chat contribution. Guys, tour dates, I got them. Australia, Melbourne, we're almost sold out. Melbourne, I have to start saying it right. Someone corrected me on that. I say Melbourne, and they're like, Ron, that sucks. It's not Melbourne, it's Melbourne. All right, I'm working on it. But Melbourne, we're almost sold out. Get your tickets. They're going fast. We are almost sold out, Melbourne. Did I say right? Melbourne, almost sold out. November 14th is the date on that. Get your tickets. Do not wait. November 15th, Adelaide. November 17th, Sydney. November 22nd, Perth. Australia, we cannot wait to see you. We cannot freaking wait to see you. Also, we're going to do some Southern California stuff in December. December 13th, Ventura Harbor Comedy Club. December 14th, the Dojo of Comedy at Sycamore Tavern. Who's the they I'm referring to? Myself and Graham Elwood. Because we're getting ready for our 2020 tour. We're going to be workshopping right in our own backyard in Southern California. Tickets for that are available at ronplacone.com. In 2020, tickets are available now for a lot of those shows. Tucson, Arizona. We're going to be there February 8th. Tickets on sale now. February 29th, San Francisco, California. Tickets on sale now. March 12th, Orlando, Florida. March 14th, Miami, Florida. Tickets just went on sale. You can get those at ronplacone.com. April 10th, I will be in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. That's just me. Graham's not going to be on that show. April 24th, Seattle, Washington. April 25th, Portland, Oregon. All those tickets are available now at ronplacone.com. And Detroit, Cleveland, we're coming. Chicago, we're coming. Milwaukee, we're coming. So we're still working on a lot of dates. Oh, and East Coast, we'll be coming back at you later in 2020. So New York, Boston, hold tight. We're coming. Philadelphia, we're coming. DC, we're coming. And hopefully we're going to be coming to Vermont and Maine as well. So ronplacone.com for all those tickets. Belfazar, JCG Irvine, Jedi Mullet, thank you very much for the Super Chat contribution. Truth to Tweet and Lois, thank you very much for the stories submitted today. And everybody, again, thank you for being part of this. We'll be back tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific time, right here on youtube.com/ronplacone. In the meantime, you know the drill. Lucy says meow. I say peace. Peace.